Usually have my customer with me the whole time. So as I'm cleaning, as I'm looking, I'm already educating them on what this may turn into or what options we may have, right? Most of the time, I can't really go into a neighborhood where we haven't already lined a sewer. It's always like, oh yeah, I see you guys around here all the time. It's like, oh yeah, we just lined your homeowner's sewer, 3 weeks ago. And then they're, oh, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's your, and then you kind of educate them on that already before you even get to the point.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your host, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again. I've got a throat cold in case you couldn't tell that, but it's okay. We still power through to give you great content each and every week. This week is no different. We have none other than Joe Stark, the drain expert, coming on the show today. He's going to be talking about drains and all things drain related, as well as bundling and getting outside of the drain idea when the homeowner is in need of more than just a drain cleaning. It's going to be a good conversation, and you know that we're going to add sales and other good content to it. So even if you're not a drain guy, stick around. It's going to be a good show. For now, though, it's time to turn our attention to what we want to call an introduction to this great episode, and we're going to look to Brian for our quote.
Leadership is not only having a vision, but also having the courage, the discipline, and the resources to get you there. None other than George Washington.
A man well acquainted with leadership.
That's right. So the vision, leadership, the vision. Is this something that's reserved for the owners of companies listening? Of course not. The vision, right? Is it reserved for the owners and the managers? No. Techs, salespeople, it's not reserved for anyone. Having the vision, and it's cool that it's actually a shop tech, so what we would probably classify as a part runner. Although this is someone who stays at the shop, organizes, restocks, orders more stuff in, and is ready to go when someone needs something taken out to them. We in Lancaster, we dubbed it a shop tech. Tristan is a shop tech we have working with us here in Phoenix. And Jonathan Porter Wisman, a.k.a. the sales boss, CEO of Who Hire, good friend of mine, love this guy. He came in, did some training on one of our Wednesdays. I have guest speakers train either in person or on Zoom. And he came in and did some freaking phenomenal training. It was like, dude, could be doing this for a living easily. And ever since then, Tristan was one of the guys who went to him and said, man, can you spend some time with me? Can you mentor me, And Tristan's duties aren't things that you would think of as requiring like a lot of vision, right? There aren't goals to hit. There aren't, he's paid hourly, a low hourly. He's going to graduate to an apprenticeship, and then he's going to graduate to a truck, and then he's going to be on some kind of performance pay where he can affect his income. But right now he doesn't really have the opportunity. So you would think that there's no vision to be cast there, right? It's just how much quicker can I get into my own truck? Well, he came to me after working with Jonathan, and kudos to Tristan for going and seeking out that accountability, because it's freaking accountability. Jonathan sets the bar very high in everything he does, and he's a harsh critic, although he never presents it harshly. Tristan, after dealing with him for a little while, came to me with a list of all the things that he's going to start doing and being better. And one of those, in particular was, I'm going to get here early and clean the training room and make sure it's spotless before the meeting starts. And it's like, Tristan was someone we were having a lot of issues with showing up a minute after the meeting started. And probably wouldn't broadcast this on my man, except that he's cleaned that up now. And what was funny is he didn't just start coming in on time. He started coming in 20 minutes before the meeting started and then taking a selfie of himself outside the building and texting it to me and a couple other guys and captioning it by saying, "Waste no day." So yeah, clearly he's trying to get a raise, and that's one way to do it, buddy. So he's going to get in super early and send a screen or a selfie of himself being there super early and really just kind of call his shot, and he called his shot in many ways. Here's what I'm going to start doing. Here's how I'm going to start behaving. Here's how I'm going to show you that I'm worthy of the opportunity to be a shop tech on this team and learn from, some of the literal best trainers in the industry, the people that come on and train our team Wednesday, we broadcast this out to a lot of other teams, are some of the most high level trainers that have ever and will ever exist in our industry. Right. And that's not to say the fact that he's got me a few days a week, what I mean?
Oh, lucky him.
It's not nothing. But so that vision being casted, even in the quote unquote part runner role, it really warmed me up inside, and it made me think, I don't care what you're doing. Like a vision of winning and a goal of excellence can be thrown out there, and then you just chase after it frantically at any level. And if you figure out the way to do it in a position like that, or whatever position you might currently be in as a valued audience member of ours, if you can figure out how to do it in the littlest things, the most somewhat meaningless things you might feel like, imagine what you can do when you're given the opportunity to have major responsibilities and major roles, and you have practiced and become disciplined at finding ways to be excellent at everything you do. The path to riches and fame and major heavy responsibility and winning and success and changing people's lives, it's just wide open to you. All you have to do is walk down it at that point.
Yeah, discipline. I was just talking about that last week. I did a training, and I was using the good book of Hebrews to talk about discipline. So I think we've mentioned it on the show before, but Hebrews 12:11, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Regardless as to whether you view the Bible as something you want to live your life by or not, I believe the principle remains the same and is universal. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Whether it's your dad spanking you, or whether it's getting embarrassed because you were immature, or whether it's losing a game because you were not well trained or not well practiced at it, or whether it's getting rejected in the home because you didn't have the proper way of presenting or overcoming an objection. No discipline seems pleasant at the time. And that's the front end of it. The back end of it is also painful, meaning all of the practice, all of the preparation, all of the work, all of the journey and the overcoming and the refining and the sanding and the shaping, all of those things are also painful. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. But here's the truth. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. That first time that you get yelled at and thrown out of a house, because you said something wrong or you presented incorrectly, that hurts and you feel it and you learn from it and you practice and you train and you get better. And then, you get thrown out of a house again and you learn from it and you practice and you train and you get better. And all of those unpleasant experiences start leading up to a place of righteousness, a place where you walk in there with your head high and you finally know what to do and what not to do. You finally know how to handle yourself. You finally know how to hold and swing that golf club. You finally know how to have a conversation with a person when it's difficult. You finally know what it looks like to be a good father. You finally know what it looks like to be a good spouse, a good husband. You finally know what it looks like to be a good son, right? Later on, however, produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Trained by it, meaning that the way you get to a place of maturity, the way that you get to a place of the good life, the way that you get to a place of success and winning and championing and wasting no day is by the road of painful discipline. And it does not seem pleasant at the time, but it leads to a place that is pleasant in the future. That is certainly a concept that George Washington would have been familiar with all of the journeys and history that he lived his life in.
George Washington, for everything he accomplished and everything he did, he only had a grade school education. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I remember doing a history report on him, and I believe he was a surveyor, which would take a fair amount of math. But of course, they taught math differently back then.
Well, his formal schooling ended when he was 11.
Sheesh. My son's 11.
So, right.
All right, Alex. What you got?
How ready is Alex to be done with school?
Yeah, I just sent him out to survey. I sent him out to survey our properties.
I'm guessing he's rebuilding it in Legos on the trampoline back there right now.
Yes, exactly. That's amazing.
Yeah, so,
they certainly, anytime that you, not related to George Washington necessarily, but I don't know if you've ever read one of those, like they call them primers from like the 1800s, which was basically like an elementary textbook. And let's just say that as a middle-aged man in 2024, reading one of those elementary textbooks is a challenge.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So maybe his 11-year-old education was equivalent to my 15, 16-year-old education when I dropped out.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue against that.
That was Detroit Public School. So.
All I know is that education has certainly not taken a, let's just say, quality step forward in modern years.
Okay, let's not get. I'm going to start cracking jokes, so we better knock it off.
It's okay. We have good company listening to this podcast, so
yeah, I think we're good. We're in good shape for the most part. Anywho, yeah, it's all the other people who are in the driver's seat of the trucks we're in the passenger seat of right now, who also don't have high school diplomas like me. I'm guessing 60-70% of our audience. We don't miss it. It's fine.
Well, what we do miss is we miss more reviews, Brian. We need some more reviews. We're getting lonely.
Yeah.
It's been, I don't know. It's been all 15 minutes since Brian has sent me a screenshot of somebody's comments.
Yeah, check that out. Bam. A great podcast for anyone who owns a business in the trades. 5 stars. Benson Comfort NC, which I'm going to go ahead and guess means North Carolina.
North Carolina. I think that's a good guess.
Yeah. Benson Comfort. We appreciate you giving us that 5-star review. Got a little thumbs up emoji in there. And a great podcast for anyone who owns a business in the trades. We would say even doesn't own a business in the trades or in the home services. This is a great podcast, period.
I agree. Well done.
You really do, huh? That's the first time you've complimented the show in 3 years, buddy. Congrats. Congrats on coming outside yourself there.
My wife told me I had to do that.
She doesn't know you still do this show, does she?
That's true. She just thinks I go down to the basement and sleep for an hour and a half.
Work on model cars or something.
Exactly. Well, what we're going to help you work on today is some sales expertise, specifically in the drain area, but we're going to stretch beyond that. And it's time now for us to put Mr. Joe Stark in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Joe Stark. He is a 27-year-old and has been plumbing drains for roughly 7 years. He started as a measly sewer and drain tech, his words, not mine, and has been with Benjamin Franklin franchise for a total of 6 of the 7 years in Ramsey, Minnesota, owned by Brad Pete, good friend of ours. His current job title is a plumbing advisor, but he still does what he calls turd herding here and there also known as drain cleaning. His bread and butter is sales, but most important to me, meaning him, is his customer satisfaction and his customer service. His goal every time is to leave the customer happier than when he arrived, and for them to be more knowledgeable on their plumbing system and how it works. He strives to always live by the golden rule, and that is to treat others the way that you want them to treat you. If you take care of them, they will also take care of you. Recently, Joe placed number 2 in the nation for sales in 2023 in the Benjamin Franklin Network. He sold roughly $2.5 million and only was unleashed in April of 2023. Sounds like a little bit of a challenge there to number 1. His goal for 2024 is to sell over $3 million, and he has a 3-year plan to go over $10 million. The Waste No Day podcast for him has been something he's listened to for a while now, and he's very beneficial in his career. His plumbing manager, Ray Goodwin, introduced it to him a year or 2 ago and told him that one day he'd get on there. And sure enough, today's that day. Joe, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Welcome, buddy. I was more excited about having you on before you started laughing at Nate's crappy jokes before we hit the record button. Look, don't do that, all right? You don't have to. You're already on the show. You don't have to pretend Nate's funny to stay on there.
Understood.
Is that like a plumber thing that you guys talk about crappy jokes?
Oh, all day.
No, it's only when we hear crappy jokes.
At least somebody calls them out.
Yeah. Well, Joe, it is good to have you on regardless of humor content. And we are looking forward to a conversation with you today surrounding drains and things like that, how to get in the home, how to expand your reach in the home beyond just the kitchen area and into other areas, and all things bundling. But before we jump into that deep topic, let's talk a little bit about you. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background about yourself? How'd you get into the trades? Where are you at? What you doing? And kind of what's your passion about it?
Yeah. I've been in the trades, plumbing wise, for 7 years now. This March, been with Benjamin Franklin for 6 of those years. Kind of how I got into it though was I kind of was fumbling and bumbling around when I got out of high school. Didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, and one of my dad's buddies was in drain cleaning, and kind of hopped on ship with them. And I just always loved working with my hands and not necessarily staring at the clock. Being inside someone's house all the time just kind of makes the day go by faster. But, kind of started there. And then when Benjamin Franklin picked me up, I was one of the first drain guys here out of the Ramsey, Minnesota location. And we started with pretty much one truck, a snake, and a dream. And after 3-4 years, now we're, pumping $2+ million out of the sewer side. So, luckily they kind of, trusted me and invested in me to buy a jetter truck and get into lining and all these different things. And then it kind of just went on from there. But 27 years old, like I say, I've been in the trades for about 7 years and hope to continue, only get better with it. I'm constantly growing every day. As I said, I've only been a plumbing advisor for since April of last year. Before that, I was just straight up drain technician, or what I like to call a turd herder, I guess. But
that's a plumbing joke. I get it.
Yes, yeah. Just like whenever you walk into a house with a backed up basement, it smells like money, But yeah, no, I love the job. I love being able to meet everybody at work. It's the best part of it. You kind of get connections, and I still have customers that call me back from 5-6 years ago just to call me to buy a bottle of BioBen or something. Give me a bag of cookies and just visit. I'd say that's probably my favorite part about the trade, is just being able to help people and meet people, and from all different walks of life. So I'd say that's
fantastic.
My favorite. Yep.
I love that, man. And kudos to you for taking something and running with it. You're certainly fairly young in your career and already having really great success, and we're proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Met you at conference the other week at Authority Brands conference, and I believe you were receiving a reward there.
I was.
Excuse me.
Yep. It was my second time being crowned champion. Last year, I guess I didn't even know it was a thing. When you're over, $1 million, I think I sold 1.6 or 7 last year, and then I jumped up to a little under 2.5 this year.
Nice.
Lost first by like 92,000. So goal is to definitely take first next year and hopefully bust the 3 million mark. But we'll see how that goes. But we're on pace.
I thought he was first place. I'm sorry. Let's get back to this episode next.
Oh, sorry.
We didn't. We weren't looking for number 2.
We're gonna have to put that.
Pardon the other pun.
He is a drain tech, so I guess somebody has to take number 2. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But no, I'll be number 1, and like we said then you'll hopefully be back on the show next time with some new stuff.
We're gonna have to entitle this episode Benjamin Franklin's second best drain tech combination.
We're not even gonna throw a number 2 in there, huh?
Oh, I gotta be number 1 drain tech. But that's Scott Thomas from Tennessee. Yeah, he's a stud. He beats me every year. That guy.
I love the competition.
Oh yeah.
Well, Joe, what we're looking to do today is we're looking to get better in terms of the plumbing industry, and really it's going to expand beyond that because what we're talking about is general sales. So I want to start off with the idea that how many, just kind of rough estimate, how many of your calls would you say start off with somebody who has identified that their main sewer line is clogged? Is that like every call you go to?
No, I'd say maybe 2 of the 6 in a day. Obviously it kind of varies, but a lot of people don't even realize when their sewer's backing up. It's shocking how many people don't go in their basement and they just say, oh yeah, it smells like sewer gas or something like this, and then you walk into a room and they got 3 feet of sewage in their basement. But I'd say, yeah, a little under half are probably sewer line calls. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's the point I want to start off with, because that's such a valuable asset to be able to transition the homeowner who is not anticipating any sort of scope of the projects that you're doing or the money that comes along with it initially when you get there. I mean, I would assume that even the people that have identified, their main line is backing up, they are, far short of what it's going to actually cost, to get it replaced and fixed and all these things. And they're probably not even aware as to what the actual problems are that are causing the backup. So you have a ton of education to do before you can really even start communicating solutions to the homeowner, because number 1, they may not even know what's going on. Number 2, they certainly don't know why it's going on. And number 3, they don't even know what repairs, replacement, cost, all that looks like, right? So I want to start off with the first one, which is the homeowner is not aware that their main line is clogged because they probably called you out for something like a kitchen, like a branch line is slow, or a toilet needs plunged, or a shower drain is slow, right? So these typical homeowner experiences where they call you out, or maybe something's gurgling or whatever, and you get out there and you need to transition the homeowner from, hey, I know you thought the problem was just here, but there's actually a massive problem going on in another area of your house that you weren't even thinking about. So what does that conversation sound like to the homeowner? How do you begin bringing that up without, making them feel like, what is going on? Like, I just had a slow kitchen drain. What are you talking about digging up my front yard? How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time, it always kind of comes with the initial questions when you walk into the house. I mean, when you've been a drain tech for even a year or two, most of the time, at least in our state, it might not be the same for other states, but usually off the age of the home, you can already know what kind of pipe they have outside, how long they've lived in the home. If they haven't lived in the home for more than 2 to 3 years, then you probably know it's the first time they're dealing with the sewer line issue, right? So it kind of always comes down to diagnosis. You kind of just go step by step. Okay, hey, what was the initial thing that made you realize this happened? What were you doing at the time? Oh, okay, so, for example, say they were doing a load of laundry, right? Backed up out of the floor drain. Oh, well, that could be a couple things. Were you guys using toilets, flushing, anything down the toilet, taking showers at the time? Oh, yeah, we were taking a shower. And then you kind of all lead back to, okay, so at this time, you were taking a shower, backing up out of the laundry tub of the floor drain, everything via gravity. You kind of teach them the whole logistics of how everything goes downhill, and then usually by the time you even get to that point, you actually go down to the floor drain and you have them look at it. There's going to be toilet paper and feces in the bowl of that floor drain. And as soon as you show them that, they're like, holy crap. And then it's kind of always funny because a lot of people think when you flush a toilet, it just disappears, right?
It vanishes.
It's not like it goes outside to a pipe to the street. And, I don't know how it is in other states, but, our homeowners own all the way to the middle of that street. So
Right.
most of the time it freaks them out right away. Like, oh man, what did I get into? You know, I didn't have my sewer inspected. I don't know anything about that. And I kind of always start with the, at least for us, is like our memberships, we offer a free camera inspection. So it's an entry level cost, you know, like $240 to just get the sewer checked out. You get all the other benefits with it. And then bam, you kind of run the sewer down. And then to them, you can visibly see, which I'm a very big show and tell guy, that, hey, my sewer's clogged. I have water up in my pipe, and you can clearly see like maybe a speck of roots, right? And once you kind of get them to be able to see it, then they trust you more with what's actually going on, right? We're not much of a cabling company anymore when it comes to sewers. So like you were saying with cost, I mean, to clean a sewer nowadays is hundreds of dollars, you know, almost $1,000 if you're not calling a handyman that's going to pop a hole for you. So when you kind of give them that initial shock of, yeah, it's going to be $1,000 to clean your sewer today, a lot of them kind of take it, you know, I don't know if I want to do that, but a lot of people need to use their toilets, right?
Sure.
But you kind of always roll it back into trying to educate the customer all the way from the start, at least for me, is why this is happening. You know, oh, you have ceramic clay tile outside, most likely due to the age of your house. The old timers used to teach us, you know, they stopped using cast iron, and you kind of just educate them with all these different variables and viewpoints of the systems that people have in Minnesota. And normally by the time you get to the point of presenting the options, they already kind of know what they want to do, right? I mean, they want to use their toilets. They want it to last as long as they possibly can. And to us, hydrojetting is going to be that best solution for that homeowner.
Right. And that's a fantastic place to start. And I assume, you know, you kind of build up from there, right? So, you know, we can jet, and then obviously if the camera of the line has revealed that there's challenges in the integrity of the line itself, there's bellies, there's roots, there's back pitching and all these other things that can occur, you're addressing that with the homeowner at the time.
Correct.
Nate, did you go to plumbing school
I
on
know,
the way to
he's
this
pretty- I
podcast,
know,
buddy?
I'm
You just spit out every one like off the cuff.
Yeah.
That pretty much wraps it up. All right, buddy. We're
I
good
pay
here.
attention every now and again.
Yeah, for sure. But usually when I want to lead into that, you know, the best case scenario is if you can get drainage with a camera, right? On the drain side of things, you get drainage with the camera, then they can visibly see all those massive roots in there, how they're coming into the sewer. And me, at least how I'm authorized at my company, if they want to go with a bigger repair, I can discount all of the prep work to get to that big repair.
Right. Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't want to clean their sewer every 2 years because it is going to happen. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do about it until you do line it or you dig it up or you do something along the lines of that. But, or in the vice versa case, say you jet it first, you know, me as a guy, show and tell again is huge in drain cleaning and plumbing, right? When somebody can visibly see, oh, I have a crack on the top of my pipe or I have a 1.5 inch offset at this joint, they're going to be concerned, you know, and they're like, well, I don't want to deal with this happening again in 6 months. You know, I don't want to deal with digging my sewer up in the middle of winter. And it kind of just slowly translates into that, again, with show and tell, being able to show them what's going on and provide them their solutions, and also what can happen if you don't fix this sooner than later, and kind of be able to present what it would cost if this spot fails and not fixing it under a preventative maintenance level.
So what are some of those things? So you've got a good majority of clients out there who, whatever you show me, so I'm the client and you show me on the camera I have a crack or a root intrusion or a belly, but in order for you to run that camera through there, you've already popped that line open some way, shape, or form, and I now have flowing water. So what are some things that you're saying or showing me that are going to make me part with $20,000 right now as opposed to the $1,500 to jet it or whatever it is?
Yeah. So kind of like where I always go back to is like the show and tell aspect of it, right? I believe a camera and a locator is like much needed when it comes to sewer repair, obviously, because if you can fix a sewer under preventative maintenance level, say we have a cracked joint 54 feet out, right? Total sewer length 65 feet total length. I will literally go out there and locate my camera right where that is, how deep the pipe is, what they be digging up, is there a tree in the way, this, that, and I kind of break down to them this is what this may cost if we don't try to look at fixing this under a preventative maintenance level. Yes, jetting may get you drainage for a little bit, but I also come back to, and I might be kind of running on here, but with jetting, sometimes when you remove those roots, that's what kind of holds that pipe together. And I've seen it where we've sold a liner on a sewer before after we jet it, 3 weeks prior, and the thing collapses a few days before we line it. So just trying to be able to really show and tell them and get them to feel kind of like what that experience would be like if they don't try to fix it under a preventative maintenance level, like
So
permanently.
make me feel what kind of pain am I in store for?
Well,
At this point right
yeah.
now, I got to tell you, Joe, I like the idea of lining this thing or replacing this thing, digging it up and repairing it. But also, by you showing me this thing on the camera here, it's not full of water. It looks like my drain's flowing. So why should I invest that money now as opposed to just wait until it finally goes on me?
Yeah, and that's kind of like where, like I say, I'll kind of do the whole show and tell of
Role play it, bro. Don't break character. Come on, Joe.
Oh, gotcha. Like I told Nate, I am terrible with role play.
Not today. You're not, buddy.
I don't know what it is.
Let's
like
break
you can
'em in.
send me into any customer's house, and I can do all those things down to the penny.
All
But
right, you're in the Burton household right now.
Yeah,
Let's go.
no, I know.
Don't
Sorry.
make me get Amelia up here.
What were you saying again?
So why? I appreciate what you're saying. It would definitely be a headache if this thing, collapses on me at some point. However, as I look at the camera now, we see a little bit of water going through there. It looks like my drain's running fine.
Yeah.
Why do I need to invest this money now as opposed to just wait until it goes?
Well, and I guess the pipe is draining fine at this time, but I guess a question for you is how long do you think you'll be living in this house? Because this problem will recreate itself within a year or two. Every time you do clean this sewer, unfortunately, those roots will come back thicker and faster than they do every time you clean it. Every time we clean that pipe, we're putting stress on it. And I really don't want to come back a year from now. Say you don't want to line the sewer today, right? That's completely fine. But say if you call us back a year from now and we were able to clean it and we're able to get you freely flowing again, but then we reveal a major hole to where we can't line it anymore, are you willing to take on that extra $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 expense that we could have avoided if you signed your name today?
So the lining has to be done when the pipe is in a certain condition, and you're saying that if we wait, that condition could deteriorate to the point where lining's no longer an option?
Yes, sir. It's the $1 million question. I wish I could tell you, but it's not necessarily an if it's going to fail, it's a when is it going to fail. We know that they're going to fail. We have tons of research on the ceramic clay tile, the concrete, asbestos, that unfortunately every home that was built before 1975, they're all going to have to do this eventually. And I just like making sure that you guys are fully educated on the solution of this cost compared to if we wait a year or two and then you call me out, or worst case, we can't get you drainage, and then you're digging up your yard to retrieve all my equipment out of that sewer. And then again, we're adding, a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 cost that we could have potentially avoided today. Especially with you've already had me jet the sewer. We're already kind of looking at, that $1,000 bill. I can even take that $1,000 off and put it right towards the full repair today.
Okay. You got anything, honey?
Yeah. So breaking out of the role play here, I guess to me, I don't know. I think it would be important for me to understand the what if this happens again scenario in the Nastygram pictures, right? Like, kind of if I'm just speculating here, hey Joe, I'm sure my presence in your home isn't exactly what you wanted to happen today, and I'm sure the smell in your home isn't exactly what you wanted to happen today, and I'm sure the cleaning of the basement shower and basement toilet and the bathroom floor isn't exactly what you wanted to happen today. And unfortunately, these are unpredictable things. Given the condition of your line, that could happen, and I dare say it will happen sometime in the future, and we can never predict how bad it will be when it does happen. And so my suggestion to you, unless you thoroughly enjoy cleaning up sewer backup in your basement bathroom floor and laundry, would be to get this taken care of. To me, there has to be some type of like a pain point there that I don't want to have to go through this again, because nobody likes doing that in the first place.
Yeah, and I get that side of things for sure, but when it comes to like sewage backups, I mean, I'd say like under 10% ever actually get to that point, and I think it's more on the customer, is that, do I want to keep spending this amount of money every 2 years?
Yeah, for the preventative maintenance piece.
Yeah, because it's and a lot of these people, they get water alarms. Bam, they know that their floor drain's backing up immediately. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, yep, let's call Benjamin Franklin to have the sewer cleaned again. And it's more of a hassle because it always happens on Christmas, or it always happens on Thanksgiving, or it happens on the weekend, and then you're paying an emergency fee. And, it just always ends up costing the homeowner way more money than if they just kind of tackle it right away, I guess.
See, there's the pain point, though. Maybe it's just me, but like for me, the money is one thing. Yes, nobody likes spending the money, but it's the inconvenience and, dare I say, the embarrassment of it happening again when I can't control the situation. When my family's over, when I'm having a neighborhood cookout, when my mother-in-law is staying with us for the weekend, when the kids' teachers stopped by because they wanted to visit with, all these things. And that's the moment that it's going to happen. And I can't control when that's going to happen. Not to mention, I have no idea as to your response time and how fast it can be remedied. So one, I have the embarrassment level. Two, I have the inconvenience of actually living in a house that doesn't have working drains for who knows how long. And then three, there would be the potential damage or cleanup associated. Even if it doesn't normally get to that, it could still happen. So there's a lot of reasons for me to say, yes, let's go.
Yeah,
man, I was in a house doing a drain line in Lincoln Park, Michigan. And I ended up using this one on sewer lines for the rest of my career, which was, they were gone for the week or the weekend or the night, or I don't remember what. But they had a toilet running that they didn't know about, and the drains backed up, and the water had nowhere to go but stay in the basement, and the toilet just kept running and running and running. And I had to use fishing waders to get to a stack to put a cable through it. And that was waist deep. Now, it wasn't, just like toilets flushing raw sewage, but it was still, it destroyed their basement. It was a partially finished basement, completely wrecked this basement. So there's also that unknown. We're so far in this journey with your sewer line down there. You've been able to mitigate most of the damage just by calling the plumber out real quick. But there's always going to be that one time when you're not there to see it and something else happens at the same time, like a toilet starts running or a faucet starts leaking down that drain, and nobody's there to catch it, and you have no idea what kind of calamity could be on the other side of that, and how long it's going to take to find, and how much, what kind of insurance claim you're looking at, and what gets damaged. So for me, it was bringing up stories like that, as well as really, really keying in on the fact that we're talking about sewage. We're talking about sewage, and I don't care whose it is. I don't care if it's mine. I don't want it in the house.
Yeah.
We got all this wonderful plumbing system to take it out. And if we're even having to cable one time and something big didn't get flushed down the toilet, there's a challenge. Like that 3-inch or 4-inch line is made to take stuff out of the house that goes into any of the drains. So if it's clogging once, there's almost guaranteed some kind of issue in there. And once you have an issue, and certainly we should be able to find it with the camera if there is an issue. Once you have an issue, that issue now starts to get worse and worse and worse until it's fixed. So really honing in on that sewage word for me. I want to talk about it. Like, look, man, if we were talking about maybe your toilet's going to run again in a year, and we'll come out and change the flapper again, and maybe it's going to run a year or two after that, and we'll change the tank lever. Like, that's one thing. But Nate, I'm talking about sewage coming up in your basement. I'm talking about wastewater in your home. The thing that, until plumbing systems existed, probably, I would say, killed more people than everything else combined on Earth. and we have these plumbing systems to take it out, and your plumbing system is compromised. And risking what comes with raw sewage being in your house is just not something you want to do, especially if you have kids. Because you got to know where they're at and what they're doing 24/7 to know that they're not going to get some kind of infection by that. So as far as I'm concerned, with my 4 kids and dog and cat, sometimes I'm not too worried about the dog and the cat. But it's something I'm going to take care of. It's something that I feel as a professional, I'm telling you, you need to take care of. Whether you use us or not, that has really no bearing on this. But my professional opinion is this needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be taken care of now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Joe, when you finished off the reasons that I should take care of it now, you did a great job. The reason that I paused there for like a 3 Mississippi is I was waiting for you to close me right there to ask for the sale, because you did a really nice job and then you buttoned it up great. But then right then you should be coming in and saying, can I go ahead and, whatever you do, can I get you taken care of? If you just endorse right here, I'll get started, stick the hand out for the handshake, raise the eyebrows, give the nod, whatever you do, however you ask, that was the time, because you had me pretty softened up and ready to go.
Yeah, for some reason I always, I don't know what it is with me, but I kind of just like let them say yes to me almost. Like I'll bring up payment plans, I'll bring out like necessarily how they want to pay for it, and then once they kind of already give me the idea of how they want to pay for it, then I know I got them. And then it's, kind of like, okay, well, you have 5 minutes to get signed up on our, no interest payment plan. And they're like, yep, okay, sounds good. And back to kind of what you guys were saying earlier, rental properties are the bomb for that too. Love me when I get a rental property.
You mean going at the tenant?
Yeah. Well, because usually when you call a landlord, half the time they don't trust their tenants to watch what they're doing or what they're flushing or what's going on.
Yeah, right.
For them, that sewage backup to them is way more of a peace of mind for those guys because they're not actually in the house.
That's interesting. Good perspective. So, Joe, I want to talk a little bit about like that escalation, right? So, you said a camera is, well, sometimes you give them away complimentary, but roughly in the $250 range, and jetting somewhere in the 1,000 plus range, and then then you start looking at your higher things like I assume there might be a spot repair, and that that's $5,000 to $6,000, and there might be lining, and that's $8,000 to $9,000, and then there's the full line replacement, that's $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and it keeps going up from there. So how do you walk a client? Let's say that you get out there and like what they're looking at, you could do a Band-Aid, but it absolutely is just going to be a Band-Aid. What they really need is definitely a major repair at minimum. And obviously they could opt for the full line. Maybe that's not completely necessary, but that might be the direction that they would trend. How are you walking a client through what they thought was going to be like, hey, cool, the plumber will just come out here, he'll probably put a plunger on it, cup it down a couple times and we're good to go, to bam, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, and they weren't expecting that. Like, do you demonstrate significant amounts of empathy, or like how are you walking the client through that experience so they don't feel just like completely shell-shocked by what's going on in their home?
Yeah, blindsided. I guess it probably always comes back to the start of my call. And it's in a lot of successware trainings, they always tell you kind of back to the basics of just always offering, and I always like to use the word complimentary. I never say free, but like a complimentary safety inspection. Like, hey, while I'm here today, obviously we'll tackle what's, the main reason you're out here. But since I'm here, if I notice anything, would you like me to educate you on that today? And 99% of people are going to say yes because it's, complimentary. They're not paying anything for it. So I think I always kind of get it in their head right away that, oh, he might see something else. And I think a lot of homeowners already know that, hey, I haven't done anything on my house and plumbing in 5 years. But I guess it always kind of just comes down to, as I walk through the house, I'm more of a rapport guy with scripts. I usually have my customer with me the whole time. So as I'm cleaning, as I'm looking, I'm already educating them on what this may turn into or what options we may have, right? Most of the time in my career, how long I've been doing this, I can't really go into a neighborhood where we haven't already lined a sewer or if we've had done work on it, and it's kind of a question I sometimes ask, oh, have you seen our trucks around here often lately? Or, and everyone's always like, oh yeah, I see you guys around here all the time. It's like, oh yeah, we just lined your homeowner's sewer, 3 weeks ago. And then they're, oh, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's your, and then you kind of educate them on that already before you even get to the point, right?
Okay, yeah.
I kind of always am educating them as soon as I get into the house, not necessarily on dollar signs, but just what the issue may be. Kind of back to your original question of like when we're diagnosing things, right? It could be roots. The pipe may have collapsed. You have ceramic clay tile, how the house is built, the age of it. And then you kind of get that all in their head already that they might have to spend thousands of dollars before the end of this, And I guess I never really have that issue. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just thinking, like, we talked on this show about, price conditioning, right? And I'm sure you've heard that concept before, where, in fact, we just did it, I think it was the other week with Jordan Ristall, and, kind of saying like it could range from, $1,000 to $20,000, right? And like that's price conditioning where you're throwing out the complete spectrum of pricing so that the homeowner like gets that initial shockwave out of the way. But you're kind of taking that and moving it into like almost experiential conditioning by way of like shared experiences with the neighbors or with the community, and say like, oh yeah, have you seen our trucks? Oh yeah, I was just over, the other week I was over at one of your neighbors' houses or one of the developments, a couple streets over, and we were doing this pipelining thing. And you're not even necessarily at that time, or at least I don't hear you relating it directly to their scenario.
Never.
You're just kind of like telling them a story to the degree that like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Especially the lining thing, because that's kind of like, cool, fancy technology stuff that not a lot of people are aware of as of right now. And like, you're kind of just telling this story and you're almost experientially conditioning them so that if and when that actually needs to be done at their house, you've already brought that up as like a piece of the solution that they could apply.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always try to look at every homeowner I have as like a friend or a buddy or like my grandma, they're not, because as soon as you make them feel like you're coming into that house to talk to them about sewer lining, because I want you to line your sewer and I want you to pay me 15 grand to line your sewer, they look at you, I mean, they sense that immediately. Yeah. So as much as you can be vague about what you're talking about, but kind of just leave hints here and there, then they're already kind of keen on what that even is. Like you just said, it's kind of newer tech. A lot of people don't even know you can do it. So when they hear about it, they're like, holy crap, that's super cool. I've seen all my neighbors digging their yards up. And like you said, definitely off experiences, I would say. I guess I never really noticed that. But yeah, definitely kind of try to make it to where they can correlate with it or have seen it or,
Okay, so I want to be... I want to go right at something here, which is, a concept that we've debated at our shop. Obviously, digging up a sewer line is the highest ticket that you can get. Yes, I mean like the full line replacement.
Oh yeah, by far.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So let's just set that price at $25,000, right? Mm-hmm. So it's $25,000, and lining a pipe is generally going to be less than that. Is that correct?
100%. Yep.
All right. So if I'm contemplating getting into the lining business, or even if I'm already in the lining business, help me understand, am I going to cannibalize my full line replacements and the high ticket $25,000 sales by offering this mid-range option that is a good option, but it is still not a brand new sewer line? So help me understand how you position that for the homeowner, where it's a win for them, but also, taking into mind the realistic possibility that it's a lower ticket for you.
So that question, I mean, is going to be biased depending on who you ask. What is the best, form of replacement? If you were to ask me, I don't like any sewer that has joints in it. I mean, we see issues with sewers in homes that were built in the 90s already. So, I mean, when I build an option, I'm never throwing a dig cost in there unless I absolutely have to. I mean, I am the guy that will float marbles down your sewer to be able to patch a spot trenchlessly to, fix the offset to then line it. I mean, I'm a
Okay.
firm believer. And again, I mean, I might also kind of look at a homeowner as I try to teach them as if they're, treat them as if they're like my brother. I mean, I'm just lucky that I get paid to do it, but I'm always ultimately trying to get that customer the best option for them. Obviously, I educate and present it to them, and they get to choose. Um, but I'm always going to kind of push more towards a sewer lining option rather than a full replacement. I don't know how it is in other states either, but in Minnesota, they have to replace the street. They have to replace the curb, the sidewalk.
Right.
So they're talking all this money that I always say, you're spending all this money that has nothing to do with your sewer. That has nothing to do with investing in your sewer. You're fixing your neighbor's sidewalk, your neighbor's road. You're cutting that tree that you love down in your front yard.
Got it. So you're almost positioning the full line replacement as like the only if absolutely necessary option. But here's a really cool. It's almost like the open heart versus non-invasive surgery. You're like, hey, listen, if we have to do open heart surgery, we have to do open heart surgery. But let's try running a catheter up there first. A very non-invasive, surgery that might be able to get you equally as good results.
Yeah. I mean, personally, that's how I look at it. I mean, I love to sleep at night. I tell all my guys that train I love to sleep at night. I'm not out to do, not to say company names, but like scare tactics. I'm not going to try to blow them up into a $25,000 bill if I know I can fix it for 13. I'm just not going to do that. And I think that's why I get so many referrals. I think that's why I have so many customers that call me and refer me, because they know that I'm ultimately out there to take care of them. They trust me. They know that I'm here for them. And I'm not here to necessarily make a dollar off them, even though I do. You know what I mean?
Love it, man. That's a great way to look at it. I'm absolutely sure that, a lot of people are sensing that in you, which is obviously big part of why you're being so successful.
Yeah. I mean, like, you said earlier, empathy. You know what I mean? I mean, I grew up in a family that was really tight. Karma's a B. Caught myself there. But
honeybee, killbee. What kind of, are we talking? Wasp, yellow jacket, bumble.
I just know you gotta be careful about what I say on here. But
yeah, dude, Ethan has to edit out Nate's swearing nonstop.
Okay.
It's just not. It's like a waterfall.
Gotcha. Then yeah, karma's right, and I like to sleep at night, and I just don't. I always look at, if I screw this one guy over, it might lose me 5 other good calls. I don't know why I look at things that way, but the golden rule, like I told you, Brian, like I always live my day of, I'm going to treat everybody the way I want to be treated, and above that, I want them to feel like I am doing everything in my power to take care of them.
When was the last time? Absolutely spot on, buddy. When was the last time, Nate, we talked about the cheat code? The Contra game.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while, right?
It's been a minute.
I like to talk about this because probably like you, if you decided, Joe, that you were just tomorrow morning, I'm just in this for the money. Screw these people. Screw my moral compass. I'm going ham and I'm going to get rich, and I'm going to do it by just ripping everybody off. You could probably get there, right?
Oh yeah, I had an occasion today that I had this older gentleman that I sold a sewer liner on, and he was talking to me about I had a different plumber out there recently talking about repiping the house, whatever, you know what I mean, and we ended up deciding to repipe the whole entire house, but again, I kind of always come at it as like, hey, you might not, people just make their own decisions, right? If you don't force anybody into doing anything, or you pressure anybody into doing anything, they're going to decide to do it.
Yeah, so I'm saying, if you decided to be that scumbag, like you could do it, right? Or are you? Because like Nate has this like internal moral compass where he could not make himself do it. Like I don't have that. Like I'm sure that I could walk my way into it, and if I decided to be that, I would. But I never would play that game, and part of the reason is, my twin brother and I got as far as I remember, it was the first 2-player co-op video game. It was for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was called Contra. And we like saved our pennies and saved and bought a used copy from this kid at school. And we got it home, and I don't know, on like a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and we played the crap out of this game. We got like an hour a night or something. And it was probably even before my mom got home from work, and we just got our game on, you know. And then she would shut it down. We didn't have much time to play. But then the weekend was rolling around. And I think it was like Friday that the kid came to me in class and he said, "Hey, I forgot to give you this." And he handed me a piece of paper, and on it said up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start. Now, select start is what you would use for 2-player. Start if it's 1-player, and we played 2-player.
Joe literally has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's the God code, and Contra was the first one that had this, and then they put the same one on other games later. So I got home, and that evening my brother and I popped it on, and now we had unlimited ammo, unlimited health, and you couldn't die or something like that. And we beat that. Now, I don't even know if we had beat level 1. This is back in like, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s or whatever it was. And like the way that you would just grab a video game remote today and hop right into whatever game it was and automatically have the mechanics down, you didn't have that then, because, we didn't have generations playing video games. It was a brand new thing. So we probably hadn't even beaten the first level in the couple hours we had gotten to play up to that point, and we could not wait for the weekend. Like, we were dying for the weekend to just do nothing but play this game as much as we could get away with it. And whatever day it was, I think it was a Friday afternoon, we got home with the God code and we beat the game in no time. How much do you think we played that game that weekend?
Probably, I don't know, if you were to ask me, probably not that much if you beat it right away. Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
We didn't play that game. How excited were we to get home Monday from school and sneak in some time before Mom got home from work and then hurry up and jam our homework like we were doing it the whole time? None, man. We immediately lost all desire to play and love for that game. So not only did we rob ourselves of that game that we had saved up for so long to play and the fun of like the journey of beating it, but how good do you think we were at that game?
Not very good.
We didn't develop skills very much at all for that game. So not only did we rob ourselves of the joy of playing the game, but we robbed ourselves of the skill that we would have earned in beating that game slowly the right way, failing, dying, getting back up, continuing, running out of continues, having to start the game over, all those frustrations that we learned on, Mario, and then take it to Contra, and then take it to the next game and be that much better at it. And for some reason, I've always looked at lying to clients or even forcing an issue that isn't real, like making it an 8 when it's really a 3, as having that cheat code.
Yeah.
So if you can use it if you want, and if you're like me, like I had to learn having a moral I had to kind of beat it into myself. And I've had a lot of techs that I've trained that were the same way. They didn't inherently have that, but I could actually teach it to them and make them understand why it's so important to them and why it's so important to a society and why they want to act within certain rules and boundaries for their own sake and, the sake of everybody. But they could get there, and I was someone who could easily walk that path if I decided to. But you don't, because you want to get good at the game.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to be a skilled, talented player of this selling game. The other thing that people don't tell you is these scumbags that toe the line or just go completely the wrong way and do things that they know they're not supposed to. They always think that they're going to get to the point where they stop doing it now that they've made to this certain level or the certain point. Never gets there. It never happens. They never enjoy the game. They never take satisfaction in the wins and the victories. And I know that, like, it's whether we're talking about a sale or we're talking about building a business from scratch or even being in management and building your team up. I know how slow and and just painful. And it seems like everyone else around you is moving at such a faster pace. Like I'm right back here doing it again, where, Nate and I were at a decade ago. I'm right back here starting it over again in a little bit different version. Mm-hmm. But you can easily convince yourself that if I just make these dirty moves or dirty plays or do these things that I wouldn't be proud of, that, hey, I'll catch up with everybody else. But it's just not, one, it's not worth what you'll have to feel about yourself. And two, it's not worth skipping over these skills that you actually have to develop to be at that next level and be an actual player. So if you shortcut the process, you're never going to get very good.
Yeah, I agree big time. It's always like I come back to that good, better, best quote, never let it rest. That whole, I don't know if I think that's how it goes, but if you're not trying to get better every day, where are you going to go? It's just exactly, I love that.
So, Joe, I know you basically just tuned out there for the last 10 minutes because you have no idea what Contra or the God Code is. So let me
understandable. For sure.
Let me update that to today's scenario. Let's say that you were playing Call of Duty and you were spawn squatting, right? And so you knew where the respawn spots were, and you just sat there and just kept picking.
How in the world do you know about spawn squatting?
I'm just saying.
Nate Minnick doesn't play video games. I know you don't let your kids play Call of Duty, right?
I'm trying to get Joe aware of what you're trying to communicate.
I'm with you. I get where you're going. I just don't understand how you got that. Did you just YouTube that or something?
Yes. I looked it up on the Waste No Day video channel.
Did you text somebody cool and get that info?
There's no need to get personal, Brian. That's insulting. We have Joe on here. Don't make embarrassment. Okay. Good stuff, Joe. No, we appreciate it, man. And we appreciate your ethics, your morals, and the fact that you're winning, while holding the line on that. Kind of pivoting off of the conversation that we've been on there, specific around drains. I know that a fair amount of your revenue is coming from other things as well. And so that's an interesting conversation also that I want you to kind of unwrap for us, because you're going into the home specifically to address a drain line, right? You're going there, kitchen slow, the toilet's backing up, whatever it may be. And somehow in these situations, you're walking away with new water heaters and maybe water conditioning and, repipes or whatever else is part of your recommendations at this point. So how are you inviting yourself into other areas of the home, whether that's actual physical, geographical areas of the home, like other rooms, other locations, or just other areas of the plumbing system when the customer thinks in their mind you're supposed to be here to fix the drain?
Yeah, I think I use a couple different, it kind of changes up depending on the homeowner and what's going on, but I guess the first thing is I always start out with that complimentary safety inspection. Part of the tune-ups with the memberships, while I'm there, I'll go through everything. But for example, say if we're cabling a kitchen drain, right? Most of the time your kitchen drain, at least in Minnesota, it's going to lead down to where your laundry room is, which is real close to your utility room. And just getting that homeowner to be aware that, hey, I'd like to look at the pipe first before I just blow my cable through it potentially. Do you mind if I go down there and take a quick peek, right? And then you can kind of be like, oh, you have a water heater. Do you know how old that is? If they're a new homeowner, if they're younger, they don't really know anything about it. Or another thing that my boss, Ray, always pushes at our company is to always educate the homeowner on where their first line of defense is. And a lot of people don't even know where their water main shutoffs are in their home, right? So it's another way, well, hey, let me go find that for you. If anything ever were to happen, this is your first line of defense to shut the water off to the house. You know what I mean? Another thing that really works for me, say it's not a new customer, right, is I'll go back job notes from 10 jobs before I dispatch to the next, call. I will look at every notes. I will look at whatever has been offered in that house. If it's been discussed about, if it's been talked about, I'll see if they replaced it yet before I bring it up, and then I'll be like, oh, hey, Mrs. Jones, 2 years ago we were out here. We had already talked about, preventative maintenance on the water heater, and now it's even 2 years older. Have you had any thoughts about that? And usually we already have a ticket open at that point, and then that's kind of where I get into the bundling of things. And I've been authorized to kind of discount some of my labor when I do things because I don't get paid hourly. So that also kind of benefits me some, is I can, take some of my time to put it towards a bigger ticket for the company, which has always helped for sure.
So I'm guessing I know the answer to this question already, but just to make sure, when you go back 10 invoices and read up on everything done and everything recommended, are you doing that to find a reason that it's not going to sell?
No, never. I don't just because somebody else couldn't sell it. To me, that's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna sell it. Honestly, that's how I look at it when I go into a house. It's just another opportunity for me, I guess. I don't know.
So it's for the techs listening, it is a real decision. Oftentimes, sometimes, maybe not oftentimes, but there are times when you're going to look at that history, and the guys. I don't understand the techs who can have that info in their iPad and aren't looking at it at, if you're on Successware, I might get up in the middle of the night to take a leak and open my iPad to see what my first call is tomorrow morning. Like, I'm dying to find out. Yeah. Like there's no way it's after 12:01 a.m. and I have that info on my iPad and I'm not looking at the history and the last 10 calls and like starting to roadmap how I'm going to sell this job and where I'm going to steer it towards, Mm-hmm. But when you're doing that though, there is at least a temptation to figure out reasons in those notes that this is a call you just need to burn and be on your way. And what you have to be really training yourself to do is to say, when I see these notes, I find reasons the client is going to do business with me.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing keeping that from happening is there's literally nothing to do at that home. And that's rare. It does happen. So I like to say that on the show that it is something that happens occasionally, but just like with the water conditions anymore. I mean, they get worse every year. Municipal water. There's like always something. There's so few homes that have everything they need or could have in terms of their water treatment. Tankless and, all the drain lines are fine and emergency shutoffs and toilets are the perfect fit. And I always liked, there were some things like toilets that I've always felt like we don't go hard enough as plumbers talking about comfort. Mm-hmm. And what are you, 6'2", Joe?
Yeah. Almost 6'3".
You're 6. What's that?
I think, yeah, I'm 6'3", close enough. Yeah.
6'3".
Yeah.
You're, what are you, 27?
Yep.
Yeah. So no knee surgeries yet.
Not yet. Thank God.
They're coming. So, I'm 44 and have had a couple of knee surgeries and I'm only 5'11", but there are toilets that when I sit on them for, wish I could say like 3 or 4 minutes, but then I start scrolling, like it's 30 or 40 minutes. The automatic light goes off, waving my hand outside the stall. But you sit down on these toilets and getting back up when, if it's one of these days when the knee is acting up, it sucks. And when you get these guys like your size that go 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", they don't even have to have knee problems. They're getting down that close to the floor and getting up is a problem. And if you see these cats or you see people with bad knees, bad hips, surgeries, stuff like that, men, women, doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter their size. If they have issues like that, a limp or slow to walk, you should immediately be thinking, well, I was going to put it one way, but that's probably not. You should immediately be thinking of them on the toilet. All right. You should immediately be thinking about what is their experience getting on and off that toilet, because this is plumbing system and this is our job. And I can't tell you the amount of toilets that I sold based solely off of the comfort of the person using it, that a little bit taller toilet or one for sure I can remember, tiny little widow who had a huge husband who passed away, and her master toilet was a handicap toilet with a handicap seat on it. So it was ADA, so it was 2 inches taller than your standard toilet and had a 2-inch lift seat on it. And I'm like, ma'am, do you use a step stool to get on that thing? And she just starts giggling. She's like, that was my husband's. And I'm like, yeah. So one, we can just snap this seat off and throw a regular seat on there. That's actually going to shorten it up for you. But if you still want it to be shorter, we can put a different style of toilet in there. She went with the seat, and then I was back for a maintenance later, and she said, let's go with the shorter toilet. And simply because of that conversation, you have to think about the fact. This is one of those things that people just deal with, the toilet situation, right? And how many things in the plumbing system, the electrical system, the HVAC system, the garage doors, the roof, you name it, any industry we're working on, the pressure washing, which we actually have a ton of pressure washing listeners anymore. But how many parts of the house, do we just put up with being gross because nobody's told us how quickly and easily they can clean it up? How many uncomfortable things do we just deal with because nobody said, hey, adding $16 a month to what we're already doing, I can actually take care of that for you as well. You'll barely even know that happened. And in some cases, $4 a month, we're talking about a toilet.
Yeah.
You're not even going to know that hits the financing.
Exactly.
So we have to be cognizant and always on the lookout for those kind of things. But toilets to me is a big one. And Aaron Buckwalter, the president of the company, Nate's out there. Nate, if he's talking about his plumbing system, what's he talking about?
The InSinkErator.
He's got that 1-horse stainless garbage disposal. And that guy, I guarantee you, never thought about his garbage disposal until someone ripped out that Badger 1 freaking, I don't know what it is, 1/4 or 1/3 horsepower, just junk, and chucked it in the dumpster and put him in this stainless, massive, almost silent monster. And 3-4 years later, he's still talking about how much he loves that garbage disposal. But until somebody brought it up, he just put up with it and didn't know it was something he could change.
Yeah.
That's all. All right, rant over. All right, I'm gonna get off my soap. I'm gonna get off my 2-inch lifted ADA soapbox.
It's so true, Brian. And the HVAC guys have literally made a career shift in becoming the comfort experts. And no longer is it just about heating and cooling. Now it's about making sure there's no hot or cold spots in your home. Now it's about indoor air quality. Now it's about making sure that the ducts are sealed and cleaned, and there's so many comfort options that are out there for HVAC. I think it's time for plumbing to really take that bull by the horns and make it more than just turning wrenches and fixing pipes. There's so much to be offered when it comes to comfort, like you mentioned, Brian, not only just with toilets and products like that, but quality of water, quality of cooking and coffees and soups and all these things that people care about. But are really just ignorant to the solutions that are out there.
Yeah, and we're definitely turning the corner on the water treatment part. And, 3 years of us beating this drum, I don't want to say I'm fully responsible for the plumbing market finally catching up, but at least 75% of it has been us, right?
Yes.
At least 75%, maybe 90. But the smaller little things, and part of the challenge is you still have a lot of plumbers who don't want to feel like salespeople and don't want to be, don't want to make money off of quote unquote selling. And then when they hear more and more about selling, and then they see themselves starting to recommend things, they push back push back against feeling like a salesperson, which is something we definitely have tried to fight against on this show. If for nothing else, because man, I can't tell you the reviews that I've gotten. Forget water treatment; they've always been the most consistent, amazing reviews for me. But off of telling people that I can get them a shorter or taller toilet installed, and then they've used it for a few days and decide to write a letter, send an email, shoot a text, whatever. Tell us about it. Tell the company about it, or put it on Google or whatever. It doesn't take much, man, for you to get out of bed in the middle of the night and go to sit on that toilet and realize, oh, I don't have to drop down to it, because your leg strength bending down is significantly different than getting up.
Big time.
So people will drop down to these things, and then getting off of them is a nightmare. So yeah, it's a whole different level of customer service.
Yeah, and
when you're,
sorry, go ahead.
You're good, boy.
I was just going to say something to add to that, because it's kind of funny. Is sometimes you have the tall husband and the short wife, And I should be a sponsor for Squatty Potty. If you guys have ever heard of that, because holy buckets, have I sold a lot of Comfort Height toilets by recommending that Squatty Potty to the wife.
That's so funny. Well, this has been really good, Joe. And as we're wrapping things up here, I have one more question I want to ask you. But before we do that, if people are interested in your story and what you're talking about, maybe there's some drain guys out there who'd like to bounce some ideas off you, where's a good place to find you?
I'm not too big on social media, but Facebook pretty much. If you ever want to message me on there, it's just Joseph Stark. Or you can always call I don't know if I can share my phone number on this or not. It's probably not the best idea.
Share whatever you want, buddy.
Totally up to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a work cell. If you ever want to give me a jingle or shoot me a text, I'm always available. It's 763-294-1000.
What's your gamer handle in case I wanna respawn squat?
Spawn squat you.
It's JDiffy13. I'm a big country fan.
Okay.
Big country
Are you in the
fan.
Waste No Day Facebook group? Joe?
I just finally got added to that today. I didn't even know it was a thing. So
Okay,
I'm
so
on there now
for the
too.
listeners, I bring that up every now and then. Ethan, my 16-year-old son who edits the podcast, and I came upon an amazing discovery last night, which is that we can add a link to the Facebook group in the show notes of an episode.
Oh, perfect.
So now if you're listening, you just pause it, scroll down, or you can probably leave it running while Nate's talking. Scroll down, it'll just say Facebook group, Waste No Day Facebook group. Click, and if you have the app on your phone, boom, takes you right over. Answer 3 questions real quick. They're just basic stuff. We don't get into all the nonsense of what you can and can't post, but we don't allow you to advertise in there. So marketers, sorry, it's not for you.
It's too bad there's not an easier way to leave a review on Apple too. I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I literally had to Google to find out how to leave a review for you guys on Waste No Day. It's too bad there's not like a simple link to click up top or something.
It's not really. You know what? I think
Like
the
you said,
challenge
that's
is
necessary.
well, we don't have to get into this now. I think the
we
challenge
don't.
is
No, we don't.
is that people don't have an Apple ID.
Oh, that's probably my problem. Yeah.
Because if you have an Apple ID, you scroll halfway down that screen and it says leave a review. Boom. If you don't have an Apple ID, it will not let you. So you have to go to your settings, go to Apple ID, and then create one in your phone settings.
That I had to do that today.
Oh, so you can leave a review.
I left
Goody
you one already.
gumdrops.
Yeah, I already left.
My man, what's up?
I assume your review handle is something like JDiffy13 as well. So we'll look for that.
Sounds good. You'll see it.
Maybe it's just pickup man. I don't know. Whatever. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last question for you, Joe. Just wanted, the idea got prompted to me earlier when you were talking about going back through the call notes and the history and looking at previous recommendations. For some guys, Brian, you kind of hinted at, for some guys, they look back at that and they say, here's 10 reasons why I'm not going to present an 11th time today. Here's 10 reasons why I'm not going to get rejected as the 11th guy to recommend this. But for some reason, Joe, you look at that differently and say, here's 10 reasons that I have 10 things to present today. So if I'm of the former mindset and I'm more of like when I see previous recommendations that were rejected in the notes, I get gun shy and I kind of shut down and I don't want to bring that stuff up because obviously they've already said no to it. How do I transfer more to your mindset where it's like, no, when I see previous recommendations that aren't installed yet, it's game on, baby. It's like, let's get this done. How do I make that jump in my head? Close us out on that.
Yeah, like you say, it's always definitely a mindset to wake up every day that every call is an opportunity, right? That's how I look at it, right? Everyone goes through their slow times and their busy times. And if you've been through enough slow times, I think it hits you in the point that every time you walk into a door, you should not, and it goes back to prejudging customers for things and, all those reasons where somebody thinks this guy's not going to buy from me. Why would you say no before they even say no, I guess? Why would you ever close a door on yourself? Because there's always an opportunity. Even if you don't think there is, there always is. I'd say most of the customers that, when I have a trainee riding with me or something and they'll be like, this guy ain't going to buy nothing from you, those end up being my biggest tickets. You know,
Mm.
it's just kind of funny how that always works. And I don't understand why people do that either, I guess. But as soon as somebody could break that, it's going to open up so many more opportunities for you that you never even knew were there.
Love it, Joe. Good advice to end on. Thanks so much for being part of the show, man. We wish you well as you pursue the $3 million mark this year.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, buddy.
Lots of follow-up calls.
Yeah, baby. Yeah,
So-
baby.
So, and thank you guys. Appreciate you.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed your time with Joe Stark. It was good to hear from him and the success that he's having in the drain world and beyond. Make sure that you go back and listen to some of these great ideas that he had in terms of creating that conversation, escalating into other areas of the home, getting the homeowner educated by bringing some of that experiential data and, even experience conditioning into the conversation so that they're not caught quite off guard. He did provide his contact info as well, so hit him up, let him know what you loved about his episode and bounce some ideas off of him. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. We sure would too if you let us know how you liked the episode, and the best way to do that is by leaving a 5-star review. You can use your gamer handle if you want to. You'll just have to create it, but you can also create a new one if you like. It should be cool if you did, and we would appreciate the 5-star and some comments as well. We want to leave you now with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.